and welcome to How to Do Assessment D, the write-up for 11236. Okay, so in relation to how a report looks or how you write up your research or share it with the world, which is step 10, format is entirely up to you. So I talked about this in the lecture. I talked about how you put it together is entirely up to the author. But here you can see there is some guidance as to what sort of things you need to include. So you do need to have an introduction. You don't have to call it introduction, you can call it something else, but this is where you put that literature review that I was talking about. So those 4 pieces that situate your research in the research that already exists. Then you need to tell me what you did, so that's your methods. And then you need to talk about what you found, and here I've called it analysis and discussion, but again you can call it whatever you want, and then obviously you need to draw it all together in some way. So there's some guidance. You can use those headings, there's nothing to say that you can't, but just be conscious that you can call it anything you want and you can put it together however you want. You might want to include your methods in the analysis and discussion, you might want to do anything you want, but just be conscious that that's the kind of information I need. You also need to have a reference list, so that's that 4 things or more if you've got them that I was talking about. Your both transcripts, or 3 transcripts if you're in a group of 3. The interview schedule, we've talked about that, that's the questions plus the intro and the exit. The ethics documentation, so that's the consent forms and the participant information sheet. So if you've interviewed 3 people, I need 3 of those. And the coding material. Now, most frequently, this will be your transcript. So the transcript and coding material will be the same. However, some people do use Excel to do their coding. So make sure you include that as well. Now, only 1 person in each group submits. I only get the pieces of paper once. So 1 person has to put all of that together and submit it on behalf of the whole group. Okay, so basically this is the requirements. You can read them. Okay. What I wanted to do here was show you, this is a way of presenting data. So it's a table, it's tabulated, it's a table. But this is actually qualitative data put into numerics. So this was a discourse analysis where we actually did the count. So this is actually my research, quick plug there. And you can see how we put it together and we showed what was present and what wasn't present. Now there's some numbers in there, the relative occurrence and things like that. Leo worked all that out, but it's basically just the percentage, how many times was it there. And so this was a way of presenting your data. You can put it into numeric data. Here this stands for learning outcomes. So programs with learning outcomes, program without learning outcomes, and all programs. And this is where 1 was adopted and where 2 were adopted. So that's just a way of structuring some information. You don't have to use tables, but you can. You can also draw pretty pictures. Again, this is from our research. So we drew a picture to describe actually what the problem was and where we were focusing. You don't have to do this, but you can do it. You can draw pretty pictures to explain your problem. So here we just explain how there's the profession and there's government and then there's universities and then there's the students in the end. So it's just a way of saying, look, this is a complicated thing and this is the bit that we're focusing on. All right, and we were focusing on this. Okay, so that's how we described it in our research paper write-up. Okay, so how do you actually reference? All right, so let's have a quick conversation about this. Here you can see where it's highlighted. I've actually, that is actually referencing. Again, this is actually part of my own research. This is from my thesis this time. So you can see here that when you have 2 references, you have I've got them in year order. No, I don't. I've got them in alphabetical order. And you can see here I've got the semicolon that divides it up. Et al. Implies that there's more than 2 authors, so there's 3 or 4 or more. And you can see here every time there's 2 authors, it's got the and in the middle. All right, so you can see how I've done that. And you can see how it's so regular, like it's really present. In the essays, this wasn't done very well. So here I was trying to show you how it works. And here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I've used 4 references to support one idea. All right, so those 4 references refer to this concept here. All right, and again, I've done it down here. So it just shows that. 2015A just means I've got 2 Australian government sources from the year 2015. All right, so that's how you do your referencing. That's just an example. All right, but how do you use your quotes? All right, so when you're quoting stuff, this is again quoting from the literature. You can see here that I've actually embedded it in, indented it in and made it look pretty because it's quite a full quote. So the author and the year is up here, the page number is down here. Down here, this is a difference reference up here than down here. So the quote that I'm using, I then have to put the author, year and page number at the bottom of that quote. Okay, so that's how you use quoting from literature, if it's a big quote. All right. Not saying that you have to do that, right? Okay, now here you can actually see how we've used our sources from our actual own research. So this is again from the paper that's yet to be published because I haven't got it out there yet. So there was regular reference to the experience or quality of the assessors, respondents 3, 9, 14 and 10. So this is how you say, look, this is my evidence, because we don't have evidence from literature when we're using our own data. We have to use our own data. You know, here I've got a direct quote. I assume they check, but I don't know. Respondent 9. So down here, again, I've got another quote. So it comes from respondent 24. Now you, if you want to, you can say, you know, you could number the lines in your transcript and say, you know, line 3, respondent 1, if you wanted to go into that much detail, but you don't have to. You can just say respondent 1, respondent 2, both respondents, or Mary and Jeff, if you want to give them names. Using aliases is not a problem. You can call them actual people, or you can call them boy, girl, or man, woman, or whatever, man 1, man 2. What you call them is entirely up to you. We record them the respondent, but you don't have to call them that. You can call them candidate or whatever. But you can see how I've used, this is a concept, a range of them. This is a quote, one of them. And you can see how I'm actually quoting what my data is to support my position. Okay? So that's how you use that. I hope that's been helpful. Okay.